Greetings YouTube and welcome back to my channel. You find me at Wollaston BMW Motorrad in Northampton. I'm going to get my hands on the GS 1300. Let's find out what all the fuss is about. Let's have it. Well, it is a beautifully sunny but cold January morning. It's only just turned the new year, so I have a trophy edition GS to take out. It's quite basic, it's not got all the bells and whistles on it, but all I'm after is an impression of what it's like to ride and how it compares to my 1200 GS, and we will find out. The first thing I'm going to notice, I'm sure, is the seat is much higher, which it is. So let's see if we can get her started. Okay. We've also got the new connected ride navigation on it, which would be interesting to see what that's like, because I'm used to the Nav 6, so it would be nice to see something not ghosting on me. Indicators, there they are. Cool. Here we go then. So it's kind of like a many-faceted test ride today, because not only am I riding the new GS 1300, I've also got a new mic for the GoPro after destroying it on my African trip. We'll see how that works. Yeah, so the first impression definitely is the extra seat height. Now apparently this has the off-road friendly slightly higher seat on it, being the trophy edition. I think in standard form they're between 800 and 890 mil high. And my 1200, which I'm invariably going to be comparing lots and lots of things to, has lower suspension on it, so this feels much higher. It also feels much narrower, but then again, I have a GSA, this is a GS. The GSA isn't available yet. It's usually about 6 months later, I think, that they appear. I'm really interested to see what that's going to be like. So this is all very new for me, having the kind of digital screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to a local forest where I'll park up and have a walk around the bike and have a look at it, grab myself a coffee to warm up because it's pretty cold today, 8 degrees it's saying, and then we'll see how we get on. So the gear changes are very smooth by the feels of it, the whole engine's very smooth. Already I'm noticing it's not quite as clunky on the gear changes as my 1200. The old familiar jog wheel on the left handlebar, which I'm going to see if I can get the connected ride navigation off of the kind of welcome screen if I can. Maybe I can't, I don't know what to do with that. At least it's reminding me I'm on a motorcycle at the moment. And the display just informed me that the quick shift is activated, and that was a very smooth change then. The quick shifter would be a really good thing for me if I was to have one of these, simply because after a whole lifetime of professionally playing the guitar, my fingers on my left hand suffer quite badly with arthritis and long days pulling the clutch in and out. And if you've ever watched my channel, you know I'm no stranger to a long day on the bike. It all starts to get a bit painful, so that would be quite welcome. This is in rain mode at the moment. I'm not even going to attempt to go through the menu and change it. I'm just going to keep it as it is. All I'm interested in is what this feels like to ride. So this isn't a tech fest, it really isn't. I never do that on any of the other bikes I've looked at. It's just my opinion on what I think it looks like, what it feels like from a completely layman's point of view. I'm not technically minded enough to tell you all about the specs and rebound and preload suspension and stuff like that. This is all electronics suspension anyway. But I do know what a bike feels like to ride, as I'm sure all of you do as well. And it's just my thoughts, rightly or wrongly. I guess if it's your own thoughts, there is no right or wrong, it's just an opinion, isn't it? It certainly feels very responsive. It also feels light compared to my bike, but to be fair, the 1200 when you're rolling doesn't feel heavy. It's just when you're doing like slow manoeuvres, parking it up or off-road at slow speed, this would feel better, I'm sure. It's certainly narrower. I'll stand up in a second and see what it feels like when I'm standing. You know, essentially it feels like a GS. Alright, let's stand up as well. Okay. Yeah, it's quite narrow between the legs. Can grip it nicely with my feet on the seat. I would be gripping on the tank more on my GSA. The seat feels quite firm. Apparently this is the off-road friendly seat. Yeah, it feels quite firm. Whether I'd still be comfortable on it in 18 hours time, as per the normal modus operandi, then I don't know, we'd find out if I was to buy one. Oh, it's busy here today. I think the kids are still on holiday from school, so probably lots of people walking in the woods. I'll find somewhere quiet to park up if I can, and we'll have a look around the bike, and then I'm going to be getting myself a coffee. So this is as close to being off-road as I'm going to be on this bike, which is not off-road at all. I feel if this was mine standing, I would want the handlebars a little higher, so I'd either want to alter the position they're in or put risers on. I think I feel like I'm having to lean forward and down a bit, which isn't the case on my 1200. Okay. So my initial thoughts on the GS 1300 is it definitely feels like a GS. It's lighter, a bit more agile feeling than the old 1200 that I know. I have no experience with the 1250. I've never ridden one, but I'm certainly familiar with the 1200. Aesthetically, that's a very personal thing, isn't it? I mean, some people like certain things, other people like other things, obviously. The divisive thing, I think, when this bike first came out was this headlight here. I don't have a problem with it at all, and to be honest, I think it's good that companies move forward and change the look of things. The twin boxer engine, completely redesigned from the previous models, delivers 149 newton meters torque at 6,500 RPM, and it's putting out 145 brake horsepower, more than I would ever need. The brakes are branded BMW, but they are actually made by Brembo, which is always a good sign. It has completely new, redesigned front suspension with the telelever and all that business. In fact, everything is completely new on this bike, as you would expect. So I'll be really intrigued to see what the GSA is like, that version, when it comes out in a few months' time. That's probably the one that I would go for. I like the bigger fuel tank very much on my bike. I like having that extra range. On my old 1200 GSA, I particularly like the little compartment at the front of the fuel tank for putting a credit card in when you're on a toll motorway or whatever. This is a much bigger compartment on this one. I noticed that it doesn't stay up, which I don't know if that's me, but that's a bit frustrating. Has a tray in there, which if you remove that, there is a USB connection in there, so that would be really handy for charging the phone. And if this is waterproof, which I'm guessing it is because that's a pretty substantial rubber seal, then you could have your phone in there and be charging it without worrying about it getting wet. But I'm surprised it doesn't stay up, because that would be a little bit fiddly, to be honest, on the péage in France or somewhere, trying to hold that up, get to your credit card, everything in high wind and rain, which it invariably is whenever I am on the motorway in France. So I'm going to grab myself a quick coffee, try and warm up a bit, because it is January after all, and I do run on coffee. Thank you, by the way, to everybody who has bought me a coffee via the link on my page on YouTube. I so appreciate it. It has made such a difference, really has. It helps these videos to keep on rolling, basically. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, time for a coffee, and then I'm going to ride it back to the dealership, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. So this bike has keyless ignition, which for me takes a little bit of getting used to. Having said that, 20 years ago on a Harley Davidson Road King 100th anniversary that I had, that was keyless ignition, and I got used to it quick enough. I I think I'm just old school with everything. Be interesting if I can get the sat nav to do what I want it to do as well, to be honest. Maybe I'll have a little look at that now. It's telling me to go and get fuel, which I will stick a bit in to cover what I've done in this test ride. There's no, as you rev the bike, there's no kind of movement to the side like the old GSs used to have. Even my 1200 doesn't do that. So what have we got here? Let's have a look. Oh right, okay, so that's bringing up the navigation. That's telling me to ride to the next fuel stop. Definitely notice the extra height for me. You have been used to the 1200 GSA with lowered suspension. It's not an issue, I'd get used to it. I mean, obviously you can tell this is a premium bike as you ride it. And entry level price is just shy of £16,000 I believe, so it's a premium price as well, as you would expect. Alright, let's go and get some fuel, take it back to the dealership. So even in rain mode, there's plenty of poke there, more than I would ever need on any bike. I've said before in previous episodes, previous videos, that I've never owned a sports bike, don't have any desire to do so. It's always been either dirt bikes, adventure bikes or cruisers as far as I'm concerned. Alright, once we get to the national speed limit, I'll see how it feels if I open up a little bit. I instantly forget that it's got a quick shifter on it and I'm using the clutch, but I would get used to that. I do like the quick shifter, it's very smooth both up and down the box. One thing I did just notice just then is my feet in my former boots. That's not former as in previous boots, but by the brand Former, which I have no connection to at all, other than I think they're a very good pair of boots, like the old adventure boots. They feel less planted on these foot pegs My foot is slipping around slightly more. My feet are a little bit muddy where I was stood in that car park, which was a bit of a mess, but yeah, they're not gripping my boots as much. So if I was in ownership of this bike, I'd be looking to put some aftermarket pegs on, I think, so that I've got a bit more grip, or maybe looking into taking out the rubber insert, because I think there is a rubber insert. Could be wrong, I don't know. Maybe a quick shifter is just the right amount of compromise. I had very briefly had an Africa Twin, the DCT model, and it was great, you know, like a twist and go massive scooter basically, but I got bored. There was a lack of interaction, I felt. But then I've already forgotten that I've got it because I've just been using the clutch again. I would get used to it. I'm looking for a petrol station now. So this has the same configuration wheel-wise as the previous GS's. It's got a 19-inch up front, which is a kind of compromise between off-road and road. 21 is usually the de rigueur for off-road. But I've never had a problem with the 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear wheel, so there's lots of tyre choice with those sizes. This has got road bias tyres on it, so coming off of my 1200, which has the Anarchy Wilds on by Michelin, they're quite vibey and noisy, but I do really like them. This feels much smoother and it's quieter. But you would expect that with a road bias tyre. When I am operating the clutch, it feels very light, which is good. The bike generally, in all respects, feels very responsive. The steering's not twitchy in any way. Feels very planted, sure-footed. Fellow biker braving the cold and the damp. It's not that cold actually, 8 degrees. Heated grips are on level 2. I'm not quite sure what they go up to, but they don't feel particularly warm, to be honest. I know on the second setting on my old 1200, eventually it feels like it's burning you through the gloves, and I have to invariably turn it down. But that's probably higher settings. 3. Right, 3 is the maximum, so we'll leave it on that, see what that feels like. Probably I'll find I'm turning it down in no time. In fact, I can already feel it a bit warmer. Right, apparently near the dealership there is a Morrison's. I will use that to whack some fuel back in this. That's only fair after my friends at Wollaston BMW Motorrad in Northampton have kindly lent me the bike for a ride. Well, I've got to be honest, I feel at home on it already. I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm riding a new bike to me. It feels like home, therefore it must essentially still have the spirit of a GS about it. no clunk as you put it into first. So it's all quite refined. Yeah, I can definitely feel the heat coming through on the grips more now, so I would say they're just as hot as my old 1200, but with an extra setting. I like the colour scheme, it's really cool. The trophy edition, that works for me. I particularly like that green and gold edition they do. That is very nice, and that's a higher spec bike than this one. Find neutral nice and easily, I'm not hunting for it. And it's got that old familiar GS sound to it, that purr that I like. Right, fuel. Fat. I believe it's just a little bit past the dealership. And a mere 136.9 per litre for unleaded. Crazy world we're living in. Maybe just as an exercise, I'll see if I can find my way back to the dealership using the navigation. We'll see. The bike leans over a lot more than than I'm used to. That's quite interesting. Right, and I put £3 and a penny in, just enough to cover the test ride and a bit more besides, I would imagine. I will flash up on the screen because I can't think what they are offhand, what the fuel tank size is and the economy and the range, etc. Right, what I'm going to do is just get the bike away from the pump and then see if I can put the dealership into the navigation. Usually with the BMW navigation it will take you straight to a dealer if you ask it to. Right, I'm guessing that's the dealership. It didn't come up like it does on the old Now 6 where you got BMW dealerships in it. See if that's going to take me there. Okay, the navigation seems to have turned away from the screen I was on. I don't know. Well, that's good. This is like a completely uneducated layman's kind of look at everything. I think I must have just nudged the jog wheel by mistake. Gone back to the home screen. There is the scourge of our roads these days in cities and towns, electric scooters everywhere. There's my old girl, looking nice and clean. It's just been in for a recall. So the recall was on a circlip for the foot pegs. Apparently they corrode, and there's a risk of the foot peg coming off. So that's done. It took all of about 20 minutes. Whilst they were doing that, I've been riding this beast. So I'm going to spray some protective stuff on my bike while it's clean, and then it'll be good for the rest of the winter. Well, my final thoughts. I think the new 1300 is a really, really nice bike. It was everything I expected it to be. Nice and refined, and definitely still in the spirit of the GS. I look forward to seeing what the adventure is going to be like in a few months' time, and I also look forward to jumping back on my old 1200 GSA to head home. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like and subscribe, share it as well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.